Thanksgiving. Should we be celebrating Thanksgiving? Is there a story? Is there some truth behind this Thanksgiving celebration? Just as we have Easter, New Year's Day, Christmas, Valentine's Day, birthdays, there is a history behind these holidays. But do we know it? Do we understand it? Or are we just celebrating because the world feels to celebrate? Join me as we go into a brief history of the real story of Thanksgiving. The real story of Thanksgiving. Most of us associate the holiday with happy pilgrims and Indians sitting down to a big feast, and that did happen once. The story began in 1614 when a band of English explorers sailed home to England with a ship full of Patuxet Indians bound for slavery. They left behind smallpox, which virtually wiped out those who had escaped. By the time the pilgrims arrived in Massachusetts Bay, 1620, they found only one living Patuxet Indian, a man named Squanto, who had survived slavery in England and knew their language. He taught them to grow corn and to fish, and negotiated a peace treaty between the pilgrims and the Wampanoag Nation. At the end of the first year in 1621, the pilgrims held a great feast honoring Squanto and the Wampanoags. But as word spread in England about the paradise to be found in the New World, religious zealots called Puritans began arriving by the boatload. Finding no fences around the land, they considered it to be in the public domain. Joined by the British settlers, they seized land, capturing strong young natives for slaves and killing the rest. But the Pequot Nation had not agreed to the peace treaty Squanto had negotiated, and they fought back. The Pequot War was one of the bloodiest Indian wars ever fought. In 1637, near present-day Groton, Connecticut, over 700 men, women, and children of the Pequot tribe had gathered for their annual Green Corn Festival, which is our Thanksgiving celebration. In the pre-dawn hours, the sleeping Indians were surrounded by English and Dutch who ordered them to come outside. Those who came out were shot or clubbed to death, while the terrified women and children who huddled inside the longhouse were burned alive. The next day, the governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony declared a day of Thanksgiving because 700 unarmed men, women, and children had been murdered. Cheered by their victory, the brave colonists and their Indian allies attacked village after village. Women and children over 14 were sold into slavery, while the rest were murdered. Boats loaded with as many as 500 slaves regularly left the ports of New England. Bounties were paid for Indian scalps to encourage as many deaths as possible. Following an especially successful raid against the Pequot in what is now Stamford, Connecticut, the churches announced a second day of Thanksgiving to celebrate victory over the heathen savages. During the feasting, the hacked off heads of natives were kicked through the streets like soccer balls. Even the friendly Wampanoag did not escape the madness. Their chief was beheaded and his head impaled on a pole in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where it remained on display for 24 years. The killings become more and more frenzied, with days of Thanksgiving feasts being held after each successful massacre. George Washington finally suggested that only one day of Thanksgiving per year be set instead of celebrating each and every massacre. Later, Abraham Lincoln decreed Thanksgiving Day to be a legal national holiday during the Civil War. On the same day, he ordered troops to march the starving Sioux in Minnesota. This story doesn't have quite the fuzzy feeling associated with it as one where the Indians and pilgrims were sitting down together at a big feast. But we need to learn our true history so it won't ever be repeated. So-called black man, Hispanic man, and Native Indian man, we are one people. We are one blood. We are from the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And the Lord had told us as a people, do not celebrate these holidays. When we go to the book of Amos chapter 5, the Lord said that he hates and he despises your feast days. All these feast days, all these holidays that is given to us by the oppressor, The Lord says that he despises it. We as a people must understand the Lord gave us high holy days and feast days to follow. He gave us high holy days and feast days for us to celebrate as a people. Where can we learn these things? These things is recorded right here in the Bible. Where can we go to learn it? We could come into the I.S.U.P.K under Commanding General YAHANNA, get the proper understanding of what our forefathers have left for us to follow. We have feast days, we have high holy days like Passover, we have the Feast of Unleavened Bread, we have the Feast of Tabernacles, we have Hanukkah coming up, which is on December 25th. We're not supposed to be celebrating Christmas. Most definitely we're not supposed to be celebrating Thanksgiving. You understand? These native Indians, they are our brothers. They are our family. And we as a people must stand with our brothers. We must stand with our family and come back to the way the Lord wants us to be. I am Priest and Officer Matt Koyak. With that, Shalom.